The warning lights flashed red across the bridge of the Valiant. Commander Jake Morrison gripped the armrest of his command chair as another explosion rocked the ship. Outside the viewport, space was filled with laser fire and burning debris. The battle had been going on for 2 hours, and finally the enemy ship was losing. The Zarkonian cruiser spun slowly in the darkness, trailing atmosphere and fluids from a dozen hull breaches. Its weapons were silent. Its engines were dead. For the first time in 3 months of war, humanity had won a clean victory. Jake looked at his tactical officer. "Send the boarding team. I want prisoners this time." Lieutenant Amy Collins stood near the communication station, watching the damaged alien ship on the main screen. She was young, only 30 years old, with red hair tied back in a tight bun. Her green eyes were sharp and focused. She had joined the military 5 years ago, right after Earth detected the first signs of the Zarkonian Empire. Now she was the ship's intelligence officer, and her job was about to get very interesting. The boarding team reported back within an hour. They had captured 73 Zarkonian crew members, including someone very important. Admiral Theron, one of the highest-ranking officers in the enemy fleet, was now a prisoner aboard the Valiant. Jake couldn't believe their luck. "Theron? The same Theron who destroyed the Mars colony?" "The same one," Amy confirmed, reading the report on her datapad. "He's responsible for at least 8 major victories against our forces. He's a legend in their military. Then he knows things, important things." Jake stood up from his chair. "I want him secured in the detention block. Maximum security. And Collins, he's your responsibility. Find out what he knows." Amy nodded. She had been trained for this. She had studied alien psychology, interrogation techniques, and the Zarkonian culture for years. But studying something and actually doing it were very different things. She made her way down to the detention block, where Marines in full combat armor stood guard outside a reinforced cell. Through the transparent barrier, she could see the alien prisoner. Theron was tall, almost 7 feet, with blue scales covering his body. He had 4 arms, each ending in 3-fingered hands. His eyes were orange, with vertical pupils like a cat. He wore the remains of his uniform, torn and burned from the battle. Despite being a prisoner, he sat with perfect posture, his expression showing no fear. Amy approached the barrier. "Admiral Theron, I'm Lieutenant Amy Collins. I'll be overseeing your detention." The alien looked at her for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was translated by a small device in his throat. The words came out in perfect English, though there was a strange hissing quality to them. A human female, young, inexperienced. Theron's lips pulled back in what might have been a smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Your commanders insult me by sending you." Amy didn't react to the insult. She had expected it. "You'll find that humans are full of surprises, Admiral." "Surprises?" Theron laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "I have fought your kind across a dozen systems. You are weak. Your ships are slow. Your weapons are primitive. Your military strategy is laughable. There are no surprises left. If you say so." Amy made a note on her datapad. "Are you comfortable? Do you need anything?" The question seemed to confuse Theron. "Why do you care?" "Because you're my prisoner and I'm responsible for your well-being. It's that simple." Amy looked up from her pad. "So do you need anything?" Theron studied her carefully. "Water, and something to eat that isn't poisonous to my species. I'll have both brought to you within the hour." Amy turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Admiral, welcome aboard the Valiant. I hope your stay is educational." She walked away, ignoring the alien's confused stare. Over the next 3 days, Amy visited Theron regularly. She brought him food that had been specially prepared based on Zarkonian dietary needs. She ensured his cell temperature was adjusted to match his homeworld's climate. She even brought him entertainment, including files on human history and culture. Theron was suspicious at first. He expected torture or at least aggressive questioning. Instead, Amy asked him about his family, his homeworld, and his career. She asked about Zarkonian art, music, and philosophy. She treated him like a guest rather than a prisoner. "Why are you doing this?" Theron asked on the 4th day. "You should be interrogating me, demanding military secrets. Instead, you bring me books and ask about my childhood." Amy sat down in the chair outside his cell. "Would you tell me military secrets if I asked?" "No." "Then why waste both our time?" She smiled. Besides, I find you interesting. Your people have conquered 47 different species. That's quite an achievement. It is the natural order. The strong survive. The weak serve or die. Theron leaned forward. Your species will be the 48th. This war is already over. You simply haven't accepted it yet? Maybe. Amy's smile didn't fade. Or maybe you don't know humans as well as you think you do. That smile bothered Theron more than any threat could have. It was confident, knowing as if the young human woman had a secret she wasn't sharing. He had seen fear in the eyes of every species his empire had conquered. He had seen anger, hatred, and desperation. But this calm confidence was something new. Captain Ryan Hayes visited the detention block that evening. He was a large man, over 6 feet tall, with gray hair and a scarred face from a previous battle. He had been commanding ships for 20 years, and he wasn't happy with Amy's methods. "Collins, I need intel," he said bluntly. "Central Command is breathing down my neck. They want to know Zarkonian fleet positions, weapon specifications, and supply lines. Instead, you're having tea parties with our prisoner." "With respect, sir, my approach is working," Amy replied calmly. "Theron is starting to trust me. He's asking questions about humanity. He's curious about why we're not afraid of him." "Are you afraid of him?" Amy glanced at the cell where Theron was watching them. "No, sir. I'm not." Ryan followed her gaze. The alien admiral was studying them with those strange orange eyes, trying to understand their conversation. "Why not? He's killed thousands of our people. He's one of their best military minds. Because fear is what he expects. It's what every other species has shown him." Amy turned back to her captain. "But we're not like every other species, are we?" Ryan was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Keep doing what you're doing, Collins. But if you don't have something useful in 2 weeks, I'm bringing in the heavy interrogators." "Understood, sir." After Ryan left, Amy returned to Theron's cell. The admiral was standing now, all 4 arms crossed over his chest. "Your captain is angry with you," Theron observed. "He's impatient. It's different. He wants information that I will never give." Amy nodded. "I know. That's why I'm not asking for it." She smiled again, that same mysterious expression. "Instead, I'm going to let you figure it out yourself." "Figure what out?" "Why I'm smiling, Admiral. Why none of us are afraid. Why humanity keeps fighting even though, according to you, we've already lost." Amy stood up to leave. "When you understand that, you'll understand everything." She walked away, leaving Theron alone in his cell, more confused than he had been since his capture. Something was wrong. Something didn't fit. But he couldn't figure out what it was, and that damn smile haunted him. Days turned into weeks, and Theron found himself looking forward to Amy's visits. It was strange. He was a prisoner of war, captured by an inferior species, yet he felt no real discomfort. The humans treated him better than his own people would have treated a captured enemy. Amy continued her pattern of casual conversation. She talked about Earth, about the different countries and cultures that had finally unified when the Zarkonian threat was detected. She told him about human history, the wars they had fought among themselves, and the lessons they had learned. "We used to fight each other constantly," Amy said one afternoon, sitting in her usual chair outside the cell. "Hundreds of wars over thousands of years. We nearly destroyed ourselves several times." "Then you are even more primitive than I thought," Theron replied. "The Zarkonian Empire has been united for 3,000 years. "United under conquest," Amy pointed out. "That's not the same as choosing to work together." She paused. "When did your people stop fighting among themselves?" Theron considered the question. "When the first emperor united the tribes. Those who resisted were eliminated. It was efficient. Efficient, maybe, but you lost something in the process." Amy pulled up an image on her datapad and showed it to Theron through the barrier. It was a photograph of Earth from space, the blue and white planet hanging against the black void. "We chose to unite. Every nation, every culture, keeping their identity but working toward a common goal. That's our strength." "Your strength?" Theron laughed. "I have seen your strength, Lieutenant. Your colonies burn, your fleets scatter before ours. Your soldiers die by the thousands. That is not strength," Amy's smile returned. "If you say so, Admiral, that smile." It was driving Theron insane. What did she know? What secret was she hiding? He had been captured for 2 weeks now, and every day that smile seemed more knowing, more confident. He began to watch the crew more carefully through his cell's monitoring system. The humans went about their duties with surprising efficiency. But what struck him most was how they interacted with each other. They laughed. They told jokes. During meal breaks, they would sit together and talk about things that had nothing to do with the war. He watched two engineers argue about the best way to repair a damaged power coupling, but their argument ended with both of them laughing and agreeing to try both methods. He watched the medical officer comfort a young crewman who had received bad news from home. He watched the captain join his crew for dinner in the mess hall, sitting among them as an equal rather than above them. This was inefficient. This was unprofessional. This was nothing like a proper military should operate. Your crew wastes time, Theron told Amy during her next visit. They engage in frivolous activities. They form emotional attachments. Zarkonian warriors are disciplined, focused. We do not allow such weakness. Is that what you think it is? Weakness? Amy tilted her head. Admiral, can I ask you a personal question? You may ask. I may not answer. Do you have friends? People you care about beyond their tactical value? Theron was quiet for a moment. I have subordinates. I have superiors. I have colleagues. That's not what I asked. The concept you described does not exist in our military structure. Emotional attachments compromise judgment. They create liability. Amy nodded slowly. That's sad, Admiral. That's really sad. She stood up to leave. I'll see you tomorrow. Wait. Theron moved closer to the barrier. Why do you pity me? I don't pity you, Amy said honestly. I feel sorry for you. There's a difference. You've lived your whole life thinking that emotions are weakness, that caring about people makes you vulnerable. But you're wrong. Those connections, those friendships, that's what makes us strong. That's what makes us human. And that's why you will lose, Theron said firmly. Because you care too much. Because you hesitate. Because you cannot make the hard decisions. Amy's smile widened. Keep thinking that, Admiral. Please keep thinking that. She left and Theron was alone with his thoughts again. 3 days later, Amy brought news. We're being reassigned, she told Theron. You're being transferred to Earth for further interrogation by Central Command. We leave tomorrow. Theron felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief that he would leave this ship and its confusing crew. Anxiety about what Central Command might do to him. And oddly something like disappointment that he wouldn't see Amy anymore. Will you be accompanying me? He asked. I'll be on the escort, Amy confirmed. Don't worry, Admiral. I'll make sure you're treated properly. That night, Theron couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the past 2 weeks. About Amy's questions. About the human crew and their strange behavior. About that smile, something was wrong. Something didn't fit the pattern of every other species the Zarkonian Empire had conquered. The humans should be terrified. They should be begging for mercy. They should be offering to surrender in exchange for their lives. Instead, they smiled. The next morning, Theron was escorted to a transport ship. His cell was similar to the one on the Valiant, but smaller. Through the viewport, he could see 3 human warships taking formation around the transport. The Valiant, the Guardian, and the Defender. Not a particularly impressive escort for someone of his rank. Amy visited him once they were underway. The journey will take about 5 days. We'll be passing through the Hadrian sector. It's a bit rough there. Lots of asteroids and sensor interference, but it's the fastest route to Earth. Your high command is foolish, Theron said. The Hadrian sector is perfect for an ambush. My people will have tracked your course. They will come for me, will they? Amy didn't seem concerned. You think they'll risk ships and crew to rescue one admiral? I am not just any admiral. I am Theron. I have won battles that shaped the course of this war. Yes, they will come, Amy sat down. Then I guess we'll see what happens. You will die, Theron said flatly. 3 small ships cannot stand against a Zarkonian rescue fleet. You will be destroyed and I will be freed. This confidence of yours, this smile, it will die with you. Maybe, Amy agreed. Or maybe something else will happen. Something you're not expecting. What could possibly happen that I don't expect? I have fought humans for months. I know your capabilities. I know your limitations. There are no surprises. Amy stood up to leave. You know, Admiral, you keep saying that. But I don't think you believe it anymore. I think part of you has started to wonder why we're so calm. Why we're not scared. Why we smile. Theron said nothing. She was right, and they both knew it. The first 2 days of the journey were quiet. The 3 escort ships maintained their formation, their sensors sweeping the asteroid field constantly. The crew went about their duties with the same casual efficiency Theron had observed before. On the third day, alarms began to sound. Theron moved to his cell's viewport. In the distance, he could see ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Zarkonian ships. 6 heavy cruisers, each one more powerful than all 3 human escorts combined. The rescue fleet had arrived, exactly as he had predicted. He watched the human ships move into a defensive formation around the transport. It was pointless. 6 cruisers against 3 small destroyers was not a fair fight. The humans would be destroyed within minutes, but they didn't run. They didn't scatter. They just held position, their shields up, their weapons ready. Through the cell's communication system, Theron could hear the commands being given on the Valiant's bridge. Jake's voice was calm, almost relaxed. All ships maintain formation. Hold your fire unless fired upon. Let them make the first move. Let them make the first move? Theron whispered to himself. You should be running. The Zarkonian cruisers moved closer, surrounding the human formation. One of them hailed the transport. Theron recognized the voice. Commander Vex, one of his subordinates. Human vessels, you are outmatched and outgunned. Surrender Admiral Theron immediately, and we will allow you to retreat. Jake's response was almost cheerful. Sorry, Commander Vex, but the Admiral is our guest. We're taking him to Earth as planned. If you want to follow us there, you're welcome to try. The Guardian took the first hit, her shields flaring bright blue as a Zarkonian plasma cannon struck her port side. The Defender returned fire, but her weapons barely scratched the cruiser's armor. This was it. The humans were going to die and Theron would be rescued. Everything would return to normal. But Amy appeared at his cell and she was still smiling. Why are you smiling? Theron demanded. You're about to die, am I? Amy looked out the viewport at the battle beginning outside. Admiral, do you remember when I said humans are full of surprises? Yes. Good. Because you're about to learn something very important about my species. Her smile grew wider. We're really good at keeping secrets. The battle was going exactly as Theron had predicted. The Guardian was taking heavy damage, her shields down to 30%. The Defender had lost one of her weapon batteries. The Valiant was holding position, but she couldn't hold forever. 3 human ships against 6 Zarkonian cruisers was suicide. But the humans weren't fighting back with full force. They were defending, blocking, evading, but not really attacking. It was as if they were waiting for something. Theron turned to Amy, who was still standing outside his cell with that infuriating smile. What are you waiting for? Why don't your ships fight properly? Because we don't need to, Amy replied simply. She checked her datapad. Should be any moment now. What should be any moment? There's nothing here but asteroids and debris. Exactly. Amy looked up from her pad, her green eyes bright with excitement. Admiral, how long do you think we've known about your empire? The question confused him. You detected our scout ships 3 months before the war began. Your intelligence services tracked them back to our border territories. Wrong. Amy walked closer to the barrier. We detected your empire 5 years ago. 5 years, Admiral. We've been watching you, studying you, preparing for you for 5 full years before you ever knew we existed. Theron felt a cold sensation run through his body. 5 years? That was impossible. Zarkonian intelligence had confirmed that humanity only became aware of them shortly before the invasion. Unless you let us find you, he said slowly. We let you find what we wanted you to find, Amy corrected. We showed you our civilian shipyards, our colony worlds, our defense fleet. Everything you saw was real, but it wasn't everything we had. Outside the viewport, space itself seemed to shimmer. At first, Theron thought it was a sensor glitch, a side effect of the battle. But then the shimmer spread, growing larger, covering more area, and then the ships appeared. They came from everywhere. From inside asteroids that suddenly split open to reveal hidden docking bays, from behind sensor masking fields that collapsed all at once, from what looked like empty space, their stealth systems finally deactivating. Dozens of ships at first, then hundreds. Theron pressed against the viewport, all 4 of his arms flat against the transparent surface. His orange eyes were wide, his breathing rapid. No, this is impossible. Human destroyers, sleeker and more advanced than anything the Zarkonians had seen before, materialized in perfect formation. Cruisers that rivaled Zarkonian heavy battleships dropped their camouflage. Carriers launched. Fighter wings that had been hiding in the asteroid field's sensor dead zones. And behind them all, massive battleships that dwarfed anything in the Zarkonian fleet began to move forward. But it wasn't just the number of ships. It was the design. These weren't the crude, blocky vessels that humanity had fielded at the start of the war. These ships were elegant, streamlined, covered in armor that seemed to absorb sensor scans. Their weapons were unlike anything Theron had seen before. "What is this?" Theron whispered. "Where did these ships come from?" Amy pulled up a holographic display from her datapad, projecting it where Theron could see. It showed star charts, construction facilities, research stations, all hidden throughout human space. 5 years ago, when we detected your empire, our governments made a decision. We couldn't match your technology openly. We couldn't build a fleet fast enough to defend ourselves conventionally. So we did something else. The hologram zoomed in on several locations. We built shipyards inside hollow asteroids. We established construction facilities in deep space, far from any planet or colony. We created mobile research laboratories that never stayed in one place. We developed new technology in secret, tested it in secret, and deployed it in secret. Theron watched as the Zarkonian rescue fleet, so confident moments ago, suddenly found themselves surrounded and outnumbered 10-1. Commander Vex was trying to organize a defense, but his ships were being targeted by so many human vessels that his shields couldn't keep up. "The shipyards we destroyed," Theron said slowly. "The colonies we occupied. The defense fleet we scattered in the first month of the war. All real," Amy confirmed. "Real facilities, real losses, real deaths. But they weren't our only facilities. They were decoys. We let you destroy them. We let you think you were winning. We let you believe humanity was on the edge of collapse." "Why?" Theron turned to face her. "Why sacrifice so much? Why let your people die?" "Because we needed your empire to commit," Amy said, and for the first time her expression wasn't smiling. It was serious, almost sad. "We needed you to think the war was won. We needed you to bring your fleets deeper into our territory. We needed you to spread your forces thin, chasing victories that didn't matter." She pulled up another display. This one showed troop movements, fleet positions, supply lines. "Right now, 2/3 of your military is spread across human space, occupying colonies that have no strategic value. Your supply lines are stretched across dozens of systems. Your commanders are confident, relaxed, thinking the hard part is over." Theron understood now. He understood the smile, the confidence, the lack of fear. This was all a trap. The entire war was a trap. "Not a trap," Amy corrected gently. "A strategy. We couldn't beat you in a straight fight, not at the start. You had centuries of military experience, you had better technology. You had conquered 47 species before us. But you had one weakness." "What weakness?" "You underestimated us. You assumed we were like every other species you'd conquered. Weak, scared, primitive." Amy's smile returned, but it was different now. Sad and proud at the same time. "But humans have been fighting wars since before we could write. We've studied strategy and tactics for thousands of years. We've learned from every defeat, adapted to every challenge. And we learned the most important lesson of all." "What lesson?" "That sometimes the best way to win a war is to let your enemy think they've already won." Outside, the battle was turning into a rout. The Zarkonian cruisers were being systematically disabled, their weapons offline, their shields breached by human technology that shouldn't exist. Not a single ship was destroyed, but all of them were being forced to surrender. Theron watched, his people's defeat with a mixture of horror and fascination. Commander Vex's flagship was the last to go down, surrounded by 20 human destroyers, its shields collapsing under coordinated fire. "We're not killing them," Theron observed. "No," Amy agreed. "We're not. We want prisoners. We want witnesses. We want every captured Zarkonian soldier to go home and tell their people what they saw here today." Lieutenant Paul Bennett, the navigator from the Valiant, appeared on a communication screen in the detention area. His face was excited, almost childlike with joy. "Lieutenant Collins, you should see the sensor readings. The Zarkonian ships don't know what hit them. Their weapons can't even lock onto our new destroyers." "Good work, Paul," Amy replied. "Make sure all enemy crew are recovered safely. No casualties if we can help it." "Understood." The screen went dark and Amy turned back to Theron. "You wanted to know why I was smiling, Admiral? Now you know. I was smiling because I knew this moment was coming. I knew that humanity's secret was about to be revealed, and I knew that once it was, everything would change." Theron was silent for a long moment. His mind was racing, trying to process everything he had seen and heard. 5 years of preparation, hundreds of ships built in secret, technology that surpassed Zarkonian designs, a strategy that had fooled an entire empire. "How many ships do you have?" he finally asked. Amy checked her datapad. "What you see here. This is about 1/10 of our actual fleet. The rest are positioned around Earth and our real colonies. The ones you haven't found yet. 1/10. Theron did the math in his head. If this was 1/10, then humanity had thousands of ships, thousands of advanced warships that the Zarkonian Empire knew nothing about. "Our intelligence," Theron said weakly. "Our scouts, our spy networks. How did we miss all of this?" "You didn't miss it," Amy explained. "We showed you what we wanted you to see. Every time your scouts entered our space, we made sure they saw our primary shipyards. We made sure they counted our defense fleet. We made sure your intelligence report said exactly what we wanted them to say." She pulled up another image, this one showing a massive space station hidden inside a nebula. "This is Sanctuary Station. It's our primary research and development facility. It's been operational for 4 years. Your scouts have passed within a light year of it dozens of times and never detected it. How? Stealth technology, sensor baffles, and a lot of patience." Amy closed the image. "Admiral, humanity learned something important when we started exploring space. We learned that the galaxy is dangerous. We learned that there are species out there much stronger than us. So we adapted. We became good at hiding. We became good at misdirection. We became good at making people see what we want them to see." Theron slumped against the wall of his cell. His entire understanding of the war, of humanity, of everything had been shattered in the span of an hour. "My empire will not accept this. They will send more fleets. They will destroy you." "Will they?" Amy asked quietly. "Admiral, think about it. Your empire committed 2/3 of its military to conquering humanity. Those forces are now deep in our territory, surrounded by hidden fleets they never knew existed. If your empire wants those soldiers..." The aftermath of the battle was strange for Theron to witness. Instead of celebrating their victory with loud cheers or aggressive displays, the human crews went about their work with calm efficiency. They secured the disabled Zarkonian ships, retrieved escape pods, and began treating wounded prisoners with the same care they gave their own injured crew members. Theron watched through his cell's monitor as Zarkonian soldiers were brought aboard human medical ships. They were frightened, confused, expecting torture or execution. Instead, human doctors treated their injuries, gave them food and water, and placed them in detention cells that were clean and comfortable. "Your people treat prisoners well," Theron observed when Amy visited him later that day. "We follow the rules of war," Amy replied, "even if our enemies don't always do the same." She sat down in her usual chair. "Your crew members are being processed now. They'll be held in proper facilities until the war is over. The war is not over. It will be soon." Amy pulled up her datapad. "Admiral, I need to explain what happens next. Central Command has new orders for us." Theron listened as Amy described the plan. It was audacious, almost insane, and yet knowing what he now knew about humanity, it made perfect sense. "You're going to send me home," he said slowly. "We're going to send you home," Amy confirmed. "Your flagship is being repaired as we speak. Your crew will be returned to you. You'll be given full fuel supplies and safe passage back to Zarkonian space." "Why? I am your enemy. I have killed thousands of your people. Why let me go?" Amy leaned forward. "Because you're going to deliver a message for us, Admiral. You're going to tell your high command exactly what you saw here today. You're going to explain that humanity's desperate defense was an act, that we have the capacity to field a fleet 10 times larger than what you witnessed, that every loss we suffered was a calculated sacrifice to make your empire overconfident. Theron understood the strategy immediately. They won't believe me. They'll think I've been broken or brainwashed or that I'm a traitor feeding them false information. At first, maybe, Amy agreed, but then we're going to prove it to them. We're going to decloak our shipyards. We're going to broadcast the locations of our hidden fleets. We're going to show your high command exactly what they're facing. You would reveal your secrets after 5 years of hiding them? We're not hiding anymore, Amy said firmly. The deception has served its purpose. Now it's time for honesty. Your empire needs to see the truth. They need to understand that this war cannot be won, not without losses that would cripple your empire for generations. Captain Ryan Hayes entered the detention area, followed by Commander Jake Morrison. Both men looked tired but satisfied. Ryan crossed his arms and studied Theron carefully. Admiral Theron, Ryan began, his voice formal. In approximately 2 days you will be released. Your crew will accompany you. You will be escorted to the edge of human space and allowed to depart freely. Are we clear? Clear, Theron replied. But I do not understand why you would do this. Jake stepped forward. Because war is expensive, Admiral. It costs lives, resources, and time. We've shown you that we can win. We've demonstrated our capability. Now we're giving your empire a choice. Peace with humanity recognized as an equal power in the galaxy. Or total war against an enemy that's been preparing for 5 years and has barely shown its full strength. My empire has never accepted peace from a position of weakness. Then, don't think of it as weakness, Ryan suggested. Think of it as wisdom. Your empire has conquered 47 species. You've never faced an opponent like us before. We're not asking you to surrender. We're asking you to recognize reality, Amy stood up. Admiral, how many species did your empire destroy completely? How many populations were wiped out because they refused to surrender? Theron thought back through his military history. 12 species chose extinction over submission. And how many more died fighting wars they couldn't win? 23 species fought to the last ship before surrendering. Amy nodded. 35 species dead or nearly dead because of pride. Because they couldn't accept that they were beaten. We're offering your empire something better. A chance to end this war without shame. A chance to preserve your people. A chance to learn from us instead of dying to us. The words hit Theron harder than he expected. He thought about his homeworld, the cities full of civilians who had never seen war. He thought about the young soldiers who had joined the military, thinking they would be heroes, crushing primitive humans like every other species before them. He thought about Commander Vex and the thousands of Zarkonian warriors now sitting in human detention cells, wondering if they would ever see their families again. What guarantee do we have that you won't attack us after we withdraw? Theron asked. The same guarantee you gave every species you conquered, Jake replied. None, you'll have to trust us. But think about this. If we wanted to destroy your empire, we could have done it already. We could have launched a surprise attack months ago. We could have obliterated your fleets while they were scattered across our territory. But we didn't. Why not? Because we're not conquerors, Amy said softly. We don't want your empire destroyed. We don't want your people enslaved or dead. We just want to be left alone. We want to exist in this galaxy, without constantly looking over our shoulders, wondering when the next invasion will come. Over the next 2 days, Theron watched as human engineers worked on his flagship. They repaired hull breaches, replaced damaged systems, and even upgraded some of the ship's defensive capabilities. It was surreal watching enemy soldiers work so hard to restore his ship to fighting condition. He was allowed to meet with Commander Vex and some of his other officers. They were confused, frightened, and angry. They couldn't understand why the humans were being so kind to them. It's a trick, Vex insisted. They're going to load the ships with explosives and blow us up once we're away from their fleet. But Theron didn't think so. He had spent weeks with the humans now. He had watched them, studied them, learned about them. They weren't cruel. They weren't treacherous. They were just prepared. No, Theron told his officers. This is real. They're letting us go because they want us to deliver a message. They want the high command to know what we saw here. They'll never believe us, one of his officers said. They will when they verify it, Theron replied. The humans are planning to reveal their hidden fleets. Once our intelligence confirms what we're telling them, they'll have no choice but to believe. On the morning of the third day, Amy escorted Theron to his flagship. The ship was docked at one of the human space stations, a massive structure that Theron had never seen before because it had been hidden inside an asteroid field. As they walked through the corridors, Theron saw human and Zarkonian crew members working side by side, completing final repairs. It was strange seeing his people and the humans cooperating even temporarily. "Your crew will be aboard within the hour," Amy told him. "You'll have full navigation data to get you home. And Admiral, there's something I need to give you." She handed him a data chip. "This contains everything. The locations of our hidden shipyards, the specifications for our new ships, the size and disposition of our fleets. It's all there." Theron took the chip carefully. "You're giving me your military secrets." "We're giving you the truth," Amy corrected. "Your high command needs to see this. They need to understand what they're facing. This data will help them make an informed decision about whether to continue the war." They reached the airlock that connected to his flagship. Theron stopped and turned to face Amy. "Why did you smile that first day? You couldn't have known I would see all of this. You couldn't have predicted the rescue attempt." Amy's expression softened. "I smiled because I knew something you didn't. I knew that humanity wasn't what you thought we were. I knew that this war was already over, even if you didn't realize it yet. And I smiled because I felt sorry for you, Admiral. Sorry that you were fighting a war you couldn't win. Sorry that your empire had finally met a species it couldn't conquer. Do you still feel sorry for me?" "No," Amy said honestly. "Now I respect you. You've seen the truth and you're going to share it with your people, even knowing they might not believe you. That takes courage." Theron extended one of his 4 hands, a human gesture he had learned. Amy shook it gently. "Perhaps we will meet again, Lieutenant Collins," Theron said. "Perhaps we will, Admiral Theron. Under better circumstances, I hope." Theron boarded his flagship and made his way to the bridge. His crew was already there, checking systems and preparing for departure. Commander Vex approached him immediately. "Admiral, the ship is ready. All systems are operational. The humans even restocked our supply reserves. Then prepare to depart." Theron settled into his command chair. It felt strange being in command again after weeks as a prisoner. "Set course for home. Best possible speed." As the flagship pulled away from the space station, Theron looked out the viewport one last time. The human fleet was still there, hundreds of ships that had been hidden for years now revealed for all to see. Among them he spotted the Valiant, its running lights bright against the darkness of space. On the Valiant's bridge, Amy stood watching the Zarkonian ships depart. Jake approached her carrying 2 cups of coffee. He handed her one. The journey back to Zarkonian space took Admiral Theron 6 days. 6 days of thinking about everything he had seen and learned. 6 days of preparing himself for the conversation he would have with the High Command. 6 days of wondering if they would believe him or execute him as a traitor. His crew was quiet during the trip. They had all seen the human fleet, the impossible number of ships that appeared from nowhere. They had all been treated well as prisoners, better than they would have treated captured humans. And they all knew that what they would report would challenge everything the Zarkonian Empire believed about warfare and conquest. Commander Vex approached Theron on the 5th day. "Admiral, may I speak freely?" "Always, Vex. The crew is worried. They think the High Command will not believe our reports. They think we will be punished for losing our ships." Theron looked at his subordinate. Vex had served with him for 12 years. He was a good officer, loyal and brave. "Do you believe what we saw was real?" "I do not want to believe it," Vex admitted. "But yes, I believe it. The humans have played us for fools from the beginning. They let us think we were winning while they prepared to destroy us." "Not destroy," Theron corrected. "If they wanted destruction, we would all be dead. They want peace. They want to be left alone. There is a difference. The High Command will say it is the same thing. They will say the humans are showing weakness by not pressing their advantage. Then the High Command is more foolish than I thought." Theron turned away from the viewport. "Vex, I have fought 43 battles in my career. I have conquered 12 systems. I have never lost a war. And I am telling you that we cannot win this one, not without losses that would destroy our empire." Vex was silent for a moment. "What will you tell them?" "The truth, and I will show them the evidence." Theron pulled out the data chip Amy had given him. "The humans gave us everything. Ship specifications, fleet locations, technology reports. They are showing us their strength because they want us to understand what we face. It could be false information, a deception. It could be," Theron agreed. But I do not think so. The humans have been truthful with me since my capture. Even when the truth was painful, they did not lie. When they finally reached Zarkonian space, military vessels surrounded Theron's small fleet immediately. He was ordered to proceed directly to the High Command Station, a massive orbital platform above the Zarkonian homeworld. Theron stood before the High Council 3 hours after his arrival. There were 7 members of the council, each one a supreme military leader who had proven themselves in countless wars. They sat elevated above him, their expressions cold and judgmental. Supreme Commander Krell spoke first. His voice was harsh, demanding. "Admiral Theron, you were captured by primitive humans. You allowed your fleet to be defeated. Explain yourself." Theron stood straight, all 4 arms at his sides. "Supreme Commander, members of the High Council, I was captured because I underestimated our enemy. I believed the intelligence reports that said humanity was weak, disorganized, and on the verge of collapse. I was wrong. We have all been wrong." "Wrong?" Another council member, Commander Shal, hissed angrily. "We have conquered 47 species over 3,000 years. Humanity is nothing but another primitive race that will be crushed under our might." "With respect, Commander, humanity is not primitive." Theron pulled out the data chip. "I have brought evidence. Evidence that will prove everything I am about to tell you." For the next hour, Theron described everything. The hidden shipyards inside asteroids, the mobile construction facilities in deep space, the massive fleets that humanity had built in secret over 5 years, the battle where hundreds of human ships appeared from nowhere and defeated his rescue fleet without destroying a single Zarkonian vessel. The council members listened, their expressions shifting from anger to disbelief to concern. "This is impossible," Supreme Commander Krell said finally. "Our intelligence would have detected such construction. Our scouts would have found these shipyards. Our intelligence saw exactly what the humans wanted us to see," Theron replied. "They are masters of deception. They let us destroy their visible defenses while hiding their real strength. Every battle we won in the first months of the war was meant to make us confident, meant to make us commit our forces deeper into their territory." He inserted the data chip into the council's main computer. Holographic displays filled the chamber, showing ship designs, fleet compositions, and tactical assessments. The council members studied the information in silence. Commander Shal spoke quietly. "If this information is accurate, humanity has at least 4,000 warships, many of them more advanced than our own designs." "The information is accurate," Theron confirmed. "The humans gave it to me freely. They wanted me to bring it back. They wanted you to see what we face." "Why?" Krell demanded. "Why reveal their secrets now?" "Because they want this war to end," Theron explained. "They are offering us peace. Not surrender, not submission, but peace between equals. They will withdraw their fleets to defensive positions if we withdraw ours. They will return all prisoners if we do the same. They will respect our territory if we respect theirs. The Zarkonian Empire does not negotiate with prey species," Krell said firmly. "Then the Zarkonian Empire will lose this war," Theron replied, his voice equally firm. "Supreme Commander, I have served our empire for 40 years. I have never questioned orders. I have never shown cowardice. But I am telling you now, as your most experienced field commander, we cannot win this war, not without sacrificing half our military, not without losses that would leave us vulnerable to every other power in the galaxy." The council chamber fell silent. The 7 members looked at each other, communicating through subtle gestures and expressions. Finally, Krell spoke. "We will review this information. We will verify what we can through our own intelligence networks. Admiral Theron, you are confined to quarters until we make a decision. Dismissed." Over the next 3 weeks, Zarkonian intelligence worked frantically to verify Theron's report. They sent long-range probes into human space. They analyzed sensor data from the battle. They interrogated every crew member who had been on the rescue fleet, and slowly, terribly, they confirmed that everything Theron had said was true. The humans were no longer hiding. Their shipyards were visible on long-range scans. Their fleets were positioned openly around Earth and the major colony worlds, and the size of their military was exactly as Theron had described. 4,000 warships, maybe more, all of them built in secret, while the Zarkonian Empire thought it was winning an easy war. Supreme Commander Krell summoned Theron to a private meeting. The older Zarkonian looked tired, his scales dull, his movements slower than usual. "I have reviewed the evidence. Krell said quietly. I have consulted with military analysts, intelligence officers, and strategic planners. They all say the same thing. A continued war with humanity would cost us half our fleet, maybe more. Even if we won, we would be so weakened that other empires would see us as vulnerable. Yes, Supreme Commander. You believe we should accept their peace offer? I do, Theron said firmly. Not because we are weak, but because we are wise. The humans have proven themselves to be formidable opponents. They have shown tactical brilliance, strategic patience, and technological innovation. They deserve respect. Krell was quiet for a long time. Then he stood and walked to a viewport showing the Zarkonian homeworld below. In 3,000 years, we have never retreated from a war. We have never acknowledged another species as our equal. Then perhaps it is time we learned humility, Theron suggested. The galaxy is larger than we thought. There are species out there, like humanity, that do not follow the patterns we expect. We can either adapt to this new reality or continue fighting wars we cannot win. The next day, the High Council made their announcement. The war with humanity would end. All Zarkonian forces would withdraw from human territory. All prisoners would be exchanged. A formal peace treaty would be negotiated recognizing humanity as an independent power with full territorial rights. Not everyone was happy with the decision. Many Zarkonian military officers felt betrayed. Some called for Krell's removal. A few even called Theron a coward and a traitor. But the decision stood. And slowly, over the following weeks, Zarkonian fleets began returning home. Theron was present at the prisoner exchange ceremony. It took place in neutral space with both human and Zarkonian ships watching from a careful distance. Thousands of prisoners from both sides were transferred peacefully. And there, among the human delegation, Theron saw Lieutenant Amy Collins. She was smiling. They met in a neutral conference room, just the two of them, as a gesture of goodwill between former enemies. Admiral, Amy greeted him warmly. It's good to see you again, Lieutenant Collins. Theron found himself feeling something like happiness at seeing her. I delivered your message, I know. The whole galaxy knows now. Amy sat down across from him. Did they punish you for telling the truth? Some wanted to. But Supreme Commander Krell understood the wisdom in your offer. The war is over, I heard. I'm glad. Too many people died already. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Theron asked the question that had been bothering him since his release. Why? Why did you treat me so well? Why did you show me respect when I was your... 6 months after the war ended, the galaxy was a different place. News of humanity's victory over the Zarkonian Empire had spread to every corner of known space. Species that had been conquered by the Zarkonians centuries ago heard the story with amazement. Species that had feared becoming the next target breathed easier knowing someone had finally stood up to the Empire and won. And humanity, the species that nobody had heard of a year ago, was now recognized as a major galactic power. Admiral Theron stood on the observation deck of his new flagship, the Sovereign, watching ships from a dozen different species gather at the neutral trading station called Unity Point. The station had been humanity's idea, a place where different species could meet, trade, and share information without fear. The Zarkonian Empire had agreed to support it as part of the peace treaty. His communication panel buzzed. It was Commander Vex. Admiral, the human delegation has arrived. They are requesting permission to come aboard. Permission granted, Theron replied. Escort them to the observation deck. A few minutes later, Lieutenant Amy Collins entered the observation deck, accompanied by Captain Ryan Hayes and Commander Jake Morrison. Amy had been promoted since the war ended. She now wore the insignia of a full lieutenant commander, and her responsibilities had expanded to include diplomatic relations with former enemy species. Admiral Theron. Amy greeted him with a warm smile and a human handshake. Thank you for meeting with us. Lieutenant Commander Collins, Theron replied, still getting used to the human custom of shaking hands. Congratulations on your promotion. It is well deserved. Thank you. And congratulations on your new command. The Sovereign is an impressive ship. They stood together looking out at the gathering of ships. It was a strange sight. Zarkonian cruisers floating peacefully alongside human battleships, freighters from neutral species moving between them, conducting trade that would have been impossible 6 months ago. It is strange, Theron observed. 6 months ago we were trying to kill each other. Now we stand together watching ships trade freely. Peace is always strange at first, Ryan said. He was a man of few words, but when he spoke, people listened. But it beats the alternative. Indeed it does, Captain. Jake pulled out a data pad and handed it to Theron. Admiral, we wanted to brief you on some developments. Several species have expressed interest in forming a defensive alliance, not against the Zarkonian Empire, but as a mutual protection agreement. Small species that don't want to be conquered by anyone. Theron studied the list of species on the data pad. Most of them were small civilizations, barely spacefaring, the kind of targets the Zarkonian Empire would have absorbed without much effort in the past. You are protecting them. We're offering them a choice, Amy corrected. They can join the alliance and receive protection, or they can remain independent. We're not forcing anyone. And if the Zarkonian Empire were to attack one of these species, then they would be attacking an ally of humanity, Jake said simply. And we would respond accordingly. Theron understood the implication. Humanity was drawing a line in space. No more conquest. No more weaker species being absorbed by stronger ones. It was a radical change to how the galaxy had operated for thousands of years. The High Command will not be pleased, Theron said. The High Command doesn't have to be pleased, Amy replied. They just have to accept reality. The galaxy is changing, Admiral. Species are tired of living in fear. They're tired of wondering when a stronger power will decide to conquer them. Humanity is offering them something different. Security through cooperation instead of domination. You are building an empire of your own. No, Amy said firmly. We're building a community. There's a difference. Every species in this alliance keeps their independence, their government, their culture. We're not trying to make them human. We're just trying to make sure they survive. Theron thought about this for a long moment. The Zarkonian way had always been conquest and control. Absorbed species became part of the empire. Their cultures slowly erased, their people made into Zarkonians. But humanity was offering something else. Protection without domination. Strength without conquest, may I speak honestly? Theron asked. Always, Amy replied. The High Command is divided. Some believe we should honor the peace treaty and accept this new order. Others believe we should rebuild our military and try again in a few years. They think humanity's victory was luck, that we could win a second war. And what do you believe? Jake asked. I believe humanity's victory was not luck, Theron said. I believe you won because you understand something we do not. You understand that there are different kinds of strength. The strength to conquer is obvious, but the strength to make peace, the strength to show mercy, the strength to build instead of destroy, that is harder. That is the strength that lasts. Amy smiled, but it was different from the smile she had shown during the war. This one was genuine, warm, without secrets or hidden knowledge. Thank you, Admiral. That means a lot coming from you. Over the next hour, they discussed practical matters, trade agreements between human and Zarkonian space, cultural exchange programs, joint scientific research projects, all the boring, difficult work of turning former enemies into peaceful neighbors. As the meeting ended and the human delegation prepared to leave, Theron stopped Amy. Lieutenant Commander, may I ask you a personal question? Of course. During the war, when you were interrogating me, you smiled. That smile haunted me. I needed to understand what it meant. I needed to know what secret you were keeping. I remember, Amy said. Now the war is over. Now I know all the secrets, but I find myself wondering something else. Theron paused, choosing his words carefully. Do you regret it? The deception, the manipulation, the people who died because you let us think we were winning? Amy's expression became serious. Every day, every single day, I think about the people who died in those early battles. The colonies we let you occupy, the ships we let you destroy. I think about their families, their friends, everyone who lost someone they loved. Then why did you do it? Because if we had fought openly from the beginning, even more people would have died. Both human and Zarkonian. The war would have dragged on for years. Millions would have perished. By ending it quickly, by making you understand that you couldn't win, we saved lives in the long run. Amy looked directly at Theron. But that doesn't make it easy. That doesn't make the guilt go away. Theron understood. Command always came with guilt. Every decision, every strategy, every order resulted in someone living or dying. It was the burden of leadership. You made the right choice, Theron said quietly. I opposed your deception at first. I felt betrayed, angry, humiliated. But now I see the wisdom in it. A quick shock was better than a long, grinding war. You saved both our species. Thank you, Admiral. That helps. After the human delegation departed, Theron remained on the observation deck. Commander Vex joined him carrying 2 glasses of Zarkonian wine. The humans are building something new, Vex observed. An alliance of equals rather than an empire of subjects. Yes, Theron agreed. And we must decide whether to oppose it or join it. Join it? The Zarkonian Empire. Joining an alliance led by the species that defeated us. Vex sounded shocked. Not led by them, Theron corrected. The humans are not trying to lead. They are trying to organize. There is a difference. He sipped his wine thoughtfully. Vex, I have been thinking much about our history. We have conquered 47 species. We absorbed them, erased their cultures, made them into Zarkonians. And what did we gain? Territory, resources, labor? Yes, but what did we lose? Theron gestured to the ships outside. Look at them. Dozens of species, all different, all unique, all working together. They share knowledge, technology, art, culture. They learn from each other. They grow stronger through cooperation. We grew stronger through conquest, did we? Theron challenged. How many brilliant scientists did we destroy because they came from conquered species? How many artists, philosophers, engineers? We took their resources but killed their potential. The humans understand something we missed. Diversity makes you stronger, not weaker. Vex was silent, considering this. Finally, he asked, What are you suggesting, Admiral? I am suggesting that perhaps the High Command should consider a different path. Not joining the human alliance, not yet, but opening our borders to trade, to cultural exchange, to cooperation. Let our people meet humans, learn from them, see what they have built, and let humans see that we are more than just conquerors. That would be a radical change. The galaxy has already changed, Theron said. We can either change with it or be left behind. 2 months later, Theron was summoned back to the High Command Station. He expected another lecture about his views on humanity, another warning about speaking too freely about cooperation with former enemies. Instead, he found Supreme Commander Krell in a surprisingly good mood. Admiral Theron, Krell greeted him. I have been reading your reports. Your suggestions for normalized relations with humanity and their allied species. Your proposals for trade agreements and cultural exchanges. Yes, Supreme Commander. The High Council has reviewed them. We have decided to approve a pilot program. Limited trade with human space. A cultural exchange of scholars and scientists. Joint research projects in neutral territories.